Hi, everybody. My name is Allie Roth, and I'm the president and founder of With Love. Today is our fourth time with Atoya. So she's going to be here teaching us some different methods, some 101 stuff. The great thing about Atoya, since we've done this so much, is that you can go back on our YouTube channel and go check out what she's already done with us. And so if you're new to the experience, you can go ahead and learn some more techniques here. But if you're like, oh my gosh, I got more questions, or last time I was here, Tuesday, our amazing model, I saw this happen last time Tuesday, but I tried it at home and I wasn't really sure how. So our YouTube channel is a wonderful way of doing this. Now, the other thing I want to encourage you to do is at With Love, we do what we do with an amazing staff. And so to make this happen, I just really appreciate, we've got Kyle. He's one of our newest employees here, helping us out with our social media. We've got people like Mariah and Amanda that are really making this happen behind the scenes. So first of all, big shout out to them for making that happen today. Now, Atoya and I met actually because I sort of stalked her. It's a great relationship, how any good relationship starts. At With Love, we know we're not the experts. And so what we want to do is create classes to encourage question asking, give you tools in your toolbox. But me standing here telling you how to do textured hair, or now it's called curls and coils. I've been told, right? That's the new term. So I learned that recently. I'm not the guru. And so having someone like Atoya is so important to us because she's the queen. And the thing is, when you have the queen saying, I'll put on these classes, Atoya has herself fundraised for all the items that are going to be given away in class herself. She went and shopped for all of them. She had people reaching out to her.
Thank you.
Right? Like she's the guru. So without much further ado, I want to introduce, I'm going to change this down a little bit.
Move over.
There we go. We got this. I can't even stand behind you. It's going to be like this train of us, doing stuff.
It will.
Yes. But this is Tuesday, our model. She'll be here today, letting us learn from her, answering some questions if we have them. And then Atoya is the guru who's going to be teaching us some settings techniques, some cutting techniques, which we've never done cutting.
No, we haven't.
Yeah, so this is a big deal.
Talk through it. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm going to admit somebody over here really quickly. And Atoya,
yes.
You keep going.
Okay, welcome. I hope all is clear over here. I am going to walk you guys through some basic cutting techniques. I'm not going to walk you through an entire haircut, just time-wise. And again, make sure you get permission. All of that is really important. But especially when you're talking about tight coils, and I understand most kids are age 0 to 6. So they're little and you want to move quickly, right? But you want to do it safely. So a lot of times with coils, if you get this wet and push it down with a comb and then cut across how maybe you would if you're, cutting one of your friends' hair or something, it's going to be up to here. That's not going to work. So what's really important is when I'm doing a trim at home, and if you're doing a self trim on one of your little ones with permission, what we call it is dusting the ends. So a dusting of the ends, and I hope everyone here can see that. I'm going to come out. Here's where the curl actually lives. It's a light kind of smoothing out to the ends like this. And then just at the tip, you're just going to take that right off like that. And sometimes we will move through the entire head like that. Now, obviously, if you have a 2-year-old, you're like, that is not going to work. So then what you want to do is take more sections. And I'm going to show you a quick sectioning off of the hair. I usually start at the back. It'll just make it easier for you to kind of control and not get lost. It doesn't have to be small sections and it doesn't have to be perfect. I can really take this whole piece right here, just get a couple of clips and clip up. And if your little one, when my son was little and he has curly hair, I would do it while he was napping, like on my lap sometimes. And I recommend you can get like a little, like a beard kind of scissor, like a small, not that sharp, and just little ones just on the top, just taking off, because sometimes we'll get what we call fairy knots where the ends start to get really knotted, and that means it needs to come off. It's time to go. So it doesn't have to be perfect. You're just sectioning off. And then you want to think of kind of like pie slices like this and bring a whole section up like this. Notice I'm not using a comb because for tight coils, I don't want to use a comb. One, I don't think the 2-year-old's going to let you move one through their hair. And then I use my fingers kind of as a comb. Can you see that? And I start smoothing all the way out to the ends like this. And you can see these little curls right here. It'll feel like a little bit dry there. And I'll go all the way out to the ends and just take right there. That's it. You're just going to work your way those two ways, either in a curl by curl method or just doing the section by section, smooth it out to the end. And it's just taking off that little amount. That's all you're going to do a trim. So if the hair's like this big, you can take just little pieces and right at the ends, it's the tiniest amount. I can't really overemphasize that. And that's all you're going to do. You're just going to dust the ends. And most of the time, especially with tighter coils, clients, and as you know, your little ones get older, it's like, I want it to grow, I want it to grow, I want it to grow. And we just dust the ends. That's kind of like a regular maintenance that we've been doing here for lots of our clients, where it's just dusting the ends. I don't do children's cuts right now, but I have before, and some of my other stylists do. And it's always, we're not really worried about shape. You just want to clean out that end. So I hope that that will help you guys in the future to just remember you're coming out to the end, and literally like that, you just take off that end, and that's going to keep the hair healthy. On the last class that we did, which was online, it wasn't even in person last year. That's right. I taught a different technique than what I'm going to teach today, because I think it's really important that you learn a bunch of different ways. It's not to overwhelm you, it's just to empower you. That the last class that I taught, if you go back to the YouTube and watch that, you're going to see a method I did there that's a little bit quicker. Today, I'm going to show you a little bit more detail. And I think it's important for you to know both, because maybe you have more time, maybe you have less time, maybe you've got 3 kids, and then the next time you have 1. It'll just give you a bunch more tools that you can use. Yes.
Brian's asking, so are you starting, when you're doing this, are you starting with dry hair, or are you doing wet hair for this?
I always do dry hair, always. Wet hair is not going to give me an accurate picture of what I'm cutting. So if you start with wet hair here, and like I said, pull it down like that, it's going to be all over the place, when all we want to do is make sure we see those ends. And the really important thing, I think that's a great question that you bring up. When it's dry and you come out to the ends right here, you are going to feel where it starts to get a little bit drier, a little bit finer. It's like, oh, it's losing its density. When I talk about density, it'll feel a little thicker, thicker, thicker. And then like, ooh, this doesn't feel like the rest. And that's how you'll know really to take that off. Or there will be a little knot right there. And so if you start experiencing like you're doing little braids or updos or anything, and you start feeling these little knots, it gets worse to detangle the hair, then that's how you know, oh, it's time to just clean this up. And it doesn't even mean the whole head. This area in particular, right around the crown section here, on a lot of kids and adults, seems to be the area where it gets extra dry. We always say it needs a lot of extra love there. No matter how much you rake through product, it's just like, it just sucks right back up in this area. So in those areas, you're going to feel it get a little bit coarse, a little bit dry on the ends. You want to take less off there, like even smaller than the rest. Does that make sense? Did that answer it? Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to do, and let me ask you for permission. Do you care if people touch your hair?
No, it's okay.
Always ask. That's really important. I'm going to take her over the bowl, and I encourage you guys to come stand around, and I'm going to show you really how to do a wash. And then we're going to come back over here, and I'm going to let you get hands in with just some more detail of going through the hair. Does that sound good? Perfect. Okay, come on over here, and we will be moving this so that everyone online can see as well. And please, yeah, come around, don't be shy, come gather around. I will have you get hands in at certain points. I want to tell you that the major key to curls is water. And I know that sounds crazy. Like, of course, water, like we have water. But I mean, like, it is the key thing. In between every step that we do in here on a client, whether it's raking through the conditioner, coating on the conditioner, we add a little bit of water. So at home, what that would look like is if they're in the bath, have a cup of water at all times. Like there's a little bit of conditioner you're gonna put on, dump a little water, a little conditioner, a little water. Like water is going to be key for getting the hair really hydrated. So I want to talk about cleansing the scalp first. When we cleanse the scalp, you do not need to put the shampoo or your cleanser all over the hair. That would just dry it out, especially with curls. Curls are dry and dehydrated and thirsty by nature. It's just the way it is. So you really want to focus on the scalp. If your little one has a lot of density and it's hard to even get to the scalp, then I'd recommend getting a little. Have you seen at Sally's or maybe even Target, they have applicator bottles where you would mix up like a hair color and has the little tip? Put your shampoo in one of those and you can use the tip to just line all over the scalp. And now you know that it's going directly there and then you can work it in. Because sometimes when there's a lot of hair, you're like, I feel like I'm not getting to the scalp, and scalp health is so important. It's important to rid the dead cells there, right? So I've got her hair wet. I'm gonna go in with the shampoo. Let's talk really quickly about shampoo. In your little gift bag, I did a conditioner and a cream and not a shampoo, but I wanna tell you with shampoo, to look for sulfate free is the best. And also you can do things affordably. Like I don't want you to feel like this pressure that I have to have this certain product. It's great when we have products like that, but you can definitely do this on a budget. And if you want some recommendations, you can always like email me and ask for some specific, like what are some cost effective like brands that I can use, but do look for sulfate free. There's a lot of sulfate free out there right now. You just don't want to dry the hair out. Okay. So I take my cleanser, my shampoo, and I'm really going to get this on the scalp, working this onto her scalp. If you need to section the hair off because there's a lot of it, these little jaw clips, you can get them like on Amazon. They're really inexpensive. Go ahead and use those. Once I get this on the scalp, I still feel like underneath I need a little more because she has a lot of hair. And I can just tell it's like, oh, I need a teeny bit more on there. So I'm going to go right into her scalp and get it on there. I'll get it on and then I add water, always water. So go back to water. And now you're going to see the difference. You see how that started to move? And this motion, the friction of your fingertips onto the scalp is what loosens those dead cells and makes sure we're getting scalp health. So you really want to scrub the scalp. There's a lot of questions about how often we should wash the hair. You have to make it work for your lifestyle. Trichologists would tell us the more often, the better, right? But realistically in real life, in hairstylist world in here, we're like, usually I do mine like twice a week. And my stepdaughter has like massive hair, tight coils. She does hers about once a week. So you can use your best judgment. You know, if they're little, the most important thing is just when you are doing wash, make sure you really cleanse that scalp. Take a little bit of extra time to use your fingertips. You don't need to use your nails, and just make sure you're getting that friction so that you can loosen that up. And then remember when you're rinsing, this is when you're going to do your biggest rinse, because all of this has to move through and you don't want to leave it in there. It'll get tangled and knotted. You just want to make sure this is when you're rinsing really well. So go on the scalp. And then I like to, the same way that I put my shampoo or my cleanser on with the friction motion, rinse off in that same method so that you make sure you're really getting rid of all of the dead cells. You guys have some questions about shampooing so far?
My kiddo, so when she moved in,
Yeah.
pretty much treated her scalp.
Yeah.
Like mine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bad plan.
Yeah.
Even washing once a week still so dry.
Yes, we're going to talk about dryness. So dryness is really going to, how we're going to address that is really with conditioner. And the great thing, I was so excited today because you guys are getting like a huge bottle, like the big 32-ounce back bar conditioner. And it's really good. It's like, it made me so excited. Like, I was like, oh, so glad that we're able to, because that's really where I would want you to, you know, spend more time. It's going to be in the conditioning because that dryness. And I also, you bring up a great point that I want to speak to, especially if your kiddos have, you know, are little ones that have tight coils and you're just not familiar with that texture or that curl pattern. It is always understanding that texture is texture, meaning sometimes you're going to rake through 2 gallons of conditioner and all the water. And you're gonna be like, it still doesn't seem like what I think it should feel like. That is the texture. And we even have to explain that to a lot of adults in here. Like, yeah, it's dry by nature. So we want to make it better and we want to make it easier for you. But also remember that if you're unfamiliar with texture, that sometimes no matter what you do, that's just texture and that's okay, right?
So I'm wondering if my hair is by right
Yeah,
now. And her hair's frizzy.
yeah,
I assume, but
yeah.
could be totally wrong, that frizz means dry.
Okay, that's, yeah, yeah. Yes. 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 Okay, so she brought up something really great that I assume if her hair is frizzy, that it's dry. And we like to say, yeah, frizz is just a curl waiting to happen. So we're going to help with that. But is there going to be a level of what we call surface frizz or even kind of good frizz? My hair always has some frizz on it and mine's not even that tight. So that there is some bit of like, that's normal, that's common, and that's okay. But we are going to work through how to help you encourage that curl that's really wanting to happen. I just rinsed her for so long and look how it's already dry, right? Like that's how important water is. So I'm going to start with conditioner on the ends. So even if the hair is this little, like if you got the cutest little afro with the tight curls, on the ends, right? Always on the ends and then work your way towards the scalp. It's not like plop a bunch of conditioner here. That's not going to be helpful. Start on the ends and work it up into the scalp. And you're really, this is what I want you to think of for hydration. I always explain it like if a little bubble lived here and this was hydration, it's going to be water and conditioner and that marriage right here. That's the sweet spot. That's where the magic lives. It's not really necessarily in a product. It's very much technique here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some conditioner. I'm going to start on ends and I'm going to start working it into the hair. And just by blending it in to the hair and then adding a little water and blending it again, you're going to see it's going to start to even move and start to detangle some. It's going to save you to use this combination. Now you're not rinsing it all out. I don't want you to make the mistake like she said conditioner and I'm going to dump a bunch of water and then conditioner and like make it harder for yourself. It's like, I call it a kiss of water because it's just like a little trickle of water. Just, you're always making sure that it's wet. And even when we put on our stylers, it's great to have a water bottle or be next to the sink or on the couch with a little bowl so that you can water it. Like make it simple for yourself, but that's how crucial the water is going to be. Even me talking, when I come back over from grabbing that conditioner, I have to wet again. And when I'm explaining things in here to people, I have to, oh, I was talking for 1 second, back to water every time, okay? So, and when I go through here, I will definitely let you guys feel what's going on because she gave us permission to do that. Make sure you always have permission to touch someone's hair. Just add water again. And you can be generous with conditioner, especially the tighter the coils. If you're looking and saying, oh, this seems really frizzy, be generous with it. It's fine. So I'm going to start at her ends and I'm just going to like work it all the way up to the roots in like a smoothing kind of motion. So if you got little hair right here, there's like, we like to pretend like we've got little ponytails happening like this all over. And what's going to happen as I rotate conditioner and water is it's going to start to loosen up for you without you having to do as much work. I'm just showing you on this little piece so that you get a visual, and then I'll do the whole thing. A little bit of water, and I didn't even really add any more conditioner, but do you see how that water just moved it and made a difference? That's how key the water is going to be. So I'm going to work this in. Can you grab her a towel because I'm wetting her whole entire face? This sound, you guys, is the magic. You definitely want to hear the squish. So I'm going to add a little water, and I'm going to add more conditioner. And you're going to notice that the hair starts getting more and more like that, like the seaweed. I always tell people that's your best friend. That is the sweet spot. I'm not even trying to detangle right now at first. Just don't worry about it at first. Just work on getting that mixture in there with adding conditioner and water and work it in. And also knowing realistically, like I believe in telling the truth because it will set you free. If you have a little one with a lot of hair, you have a little one with a lot of hair. And there's not really a hack that's going to change that. It's going to be a little bit more work, a little bit more effort, and that's okay.
Would there be a different technique because our little guy has short hair?
Yeah.
And it's very like
Very tight.
coils because I couldn't grab.
Right.
So what would be
So taking conditioner and you're gonna glaze over all the top.
Okay.
By the way, what she asked was her little guy has really short, tight hair, coils that are really tight to the head. So then I would take conditioner, glaze it all over the top, and start scrunching it in that little area, and then add a little water and keep doing that same rotation. Now, as far as detangling, back in the day, 10 years ago, it was like we never used anything to detangle. It's like finger detangle only, and it's the most gentle and all that. But now we've come to realize that that is not going to happen for most people in real life. So once you get this worked in there and you've got a good solid squish, you can use a wide tooth comb works really well. Do not use a small like barber kind of comb or like a beard comb that has not a lot of, teeth space. You can also use, there's lots of detanglers on the market. Do we have a tangle teaser over there? I might have one under here to show you guys, or maybe it's under there. It looks like this. There's little, have you guys seen these? They're like little brushes. Hopefully we can find one that's, you don't need something special like this, but there are tangle teasers. There's wet brushes on the market that will make your life a lot easier. Just make sure you work from the bottom up. You don't want to start at the root, especially with tight texture. You're just going to like be fighting yourself. Start at the bottom and work your way all the way up to get the tangles out. And don't be afraid if you're doing it and you're like, it felt squishy and I was still having a really difficult time detangling. Keep adding conditioner and water. The tighter the curl, the more you are not going to over condition. That is not my fear at all. Now, if you have a little one that has looser curl patterns, more similar to my hair, or like soft waves, then you have to be more delicate with it. But if you're talking about really tight coils, you're not going to overdo it. So I'm going to work this in. In here, a lot of times we do kind of more finger detangle, but in real life, we don't. So does anyone want to come over here and put their hands in and kind of feel this slip that we have? If you want to, don't be shy. It helps to like, especially if you haven't really got your hands in there, it can be helpful. It kind of sticks in the brain,
be shy. Go on. Go try.
I know, right? It's like, yeah. Yeah.
It's all right. You don't mind.
Yeah.
No,
I
it's
want
great.
you to just, and don't worry about getting the whole floor wet because this is how your life's gonna be. This is how this salon is.
Okay.
Right? We're trying to really work in now, even watch what happens when I add water. Now put your hands through that.
Oh yeah.
See how it changed?
Yeah.
And then add more conditioner. And now feel that slip right there. That is what you want.
Okay.
That's the goal. And you can even tell the difference between that and here. So small little sections, if you have to section off like that, yeah, can you grab her towel?
You're welcome.
Come over here and get your hands in here and just rake through like this.
Yeah.
Do you see how it feels like kind of seaweedy?
Yeah.
That's what you need it. And it's got to have that squish to it. Feels totally different than even right there.
Oh yeah. This already feels
Right?
dry. Yeah.
Totally.
Wow.
So this is our goal for the whole entire head, is to get it to feel like this. What other kind of questions do you guys have?
You were saying with shampoo, you start at the
Yeah.
scalp and go down, but with conditioner, you start at the end and go up.
Yes, with
Okay.
shampoo, actually, you're really focused on the scalp and you don't need to put it in the hair really at all. It will just work its way through there.
Okay.
But yeah, with conditioner, I start at the ends, work my way up. I don't want a ton of conditioner all over the scalp, really. It's like the scalp gets cleansed. We just want to remove the dead cells and the hair gets hydrated. So we want to just work this in. And yes, it is messy. Like, I'm not going to lie. In here, I mean, you can tell this is what we're doing all day long, is it's just flying everywhere. But I'm waiting to get a certain feel to it where it's got that nice slip. And that might take a few minutes. This is where you really spend more time. Now, in the last video that we did that I taught, and I was saying there was a different technique, we did more what we call a flip coat scrunch, where after you get, you're not going to really flip your little ones over them. After you get it worked through like this, then we just kind of glaze on some, usually like a gel on top to kind of hold it. But today I'm going to show you guys how to rake through in sections and use a cream, because that's what you're going to get in your gift bag. And I want to show you, make sure you know how to use it. What's really important to talk about with conditioning is that there are a lot of different techniques out there and a lot of different methods and a lot of different experts that say a lot of different things. So I always like to give the disclaimer that this is just my experience in the Pacific Northwest with what really works. Did you have a question?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a great question.
Yeah.
Closer purchase it here. It's a great question. It's any recommendations or changes for kids with eczema or flakes on the scalp for shampooing / conditioning or pre and post treatment. Our 2-year-old has really bad patches and shampoo conditioner just doesn't seem to be sufficient.
Yes. So one thing, that's an excellent question. I hope everyone heard that on there, talking about eczema or just skin issues on the scalp. A lot of times if clients have issues on the scalp, we'll say, of course, see your dermatologist. We always want to preface with that. But because I've seen so much of it, the number one thing I would really recommend for any type of eczema on the scalp or any dryness is watching for fragrance, which brings to a whole nother level of like the fragrance-free thing. In fact, I've been using fragrance-free for almost 2 years because of scalp issues. You can get Free and Clear. It is a shampoo and conditioner that is asthma and allergy recommended. And you can get it at Target. You can get it at Walgreens. That would be the first thing I would do, would be to eliminate fragrance. Especially even essential oils can be really aggravating to especially eczema. And then you may have to do a type of topical dermatologist recommended kind of treatment for the hair or for the scalp. There is also, I think it's called nitrazole. I'll have to post a picture later, maybe on my Instagram story so you can see it, that will treat some types of dermatitis, but you definitely need to talk to a derm before you put anything medicated on a little one's head, for sure. But eliminating fragrance, it's hard. There's not a lot of options, but the free and clear is affordable, and that would be my first recommendation. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So my nephew who lives with us in the summertime, he has
Yeah.
very, very tight curls. And as he's growing up, he's not doing any of this
Yeah.
maintenance,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So how often do we as parents step in and really help with that versus saying, okay, you're growing older, you can do this on your own? Like, how
Yeah.
do you graduate to that? 'Cause I feel like you even were talking about like the little angel things that you were cutting off
Mhm.
like, when you were dusting. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so him. So like,
Mhm.
what would you recommend with that and making him be self-sufficient over time?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's really hard because my granddaughter has a beautiful, tight, coily afro, and she will not let me clean her ends. And I want to so bad. She's 5 years old. I'm like, come on, let's just do these little ends right here. So you just have to use your discretion. I wish I had a magical answer for that, for how to get someone to even do self-care of caring for the hair, or, hey, let's clean up your ends. But unfortunately, I feel like the hair is such a personal thing that it's hard. It's hard to jump in. I feel like I can give the recommendation to everyone except anyone in my family because I'm a professional at it. So random strangers at Fit Foods this morning, the guys are like, so what should I do for my hair? You know, and I could tell them. But if it's someone in your family, it's harder. But always modeling it and encouraging, you know, a lot of encouragement. And I had said this the other day when we did the morning show thing, like really, you want to bring awareness and really honor to curls. And like when you see your nephew with tight curls, really like, oh my gosh, like, you know, really bring awareness to the beauty of it. And then maybe he'll be like, oh, okay. And that'll trigger something like, maybe I should kind of care for this more. Or like, you know, I don't know that I would say, well, I would, but I don't know if, because I'm a stylist. So I feel like I can get away with a lot. Like in public, people just let me touch their hair all the time, but that's not the standard. So I wish I had, you know, some kind of tip, but it is a very personal thing. And with hair, especially in the Black community, there's a whole piece of it that really, if we weren't, you know, raised ourselves with that hair, we're not going to understand it. It's very different and very personal.
I'm adopted, and so my mom is white, so she didn't know what to do with my hair, but she let me be free with the fun things that I want to do, which is like my responsibility is to keep it healthy until we're like wanting to take over.
I love
So
that.
it's like 6 months in, she's like, okay, let's just trim it up and clean it. And I always wanted flat iron, and she's like, you can have it flat iron if that's what you want, but like to just keep it clean and healthy to keep going. So you can maybe suggest that like your responsibility is its health and theirs is like more of the creativity.
Yeah.
That at least
I
made
love
me
that.
feel like I can have some type of control over it.
Thank
So
you.
if that helps.
Yeah, that's great. Megan has a great
Curiosity has
story.
got me. What age did you start shampooing and conditioning your own?
Well, mine might be different. I love playing with hair. So like I think 5, like I used to do
Yeah.
it on my own.
There you go.
But I think when I was 13, so I was adopted at 10, and then I went to a beauty school, and my hair was always in braids or flat iron, and then at 13, I just wanted to do it on my own, and so I started taking care of it. I mean, I flat ironed it for 6 years straight, so probably not the best plan. But I have a sister; she's 14, and she's really into the curls, and she takes care of it. She washes it, but then there are certain days I'm like, hey, your scalp is not quite as clean as it should be. I'm like, how about I just once a month, like how about I just help you just clean that up, and then the rest you can take over.
That's a
But
great idea.
it does help so that it's not like I'm not taking over her hair, but I also don't want her to have problems with her hair. And so I'm the only Black person in our family that she can talk to about. So that does help. It is more of a control thing, something they can handle and not feel like somebody's taking over what they look like.
Mhm.
I mean, our hairstyles last for a long time. I mean, it's been like 4 weeks. So it's like, you know, figuring out the back and forth of it.
I love that.
My kiddo is 8 and is very is starting to become extremely modest. And so as I'm thinking through like how to help her
Yeah.
in the bathroom,
Yeah.
I'm wondering about a bathing suit, just so she
Oh,
feels.
yeah.
I've done the sink. I used to lay my.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She was mentioning that her little one is 8 years old and really through with being modest and asking how she could help maybe have her put on a swimsuit and go in the shower with to help with the hair. And then Segi, what was your?
I laid my sister, like our counter worked that like it was a long counter with a sink. I just laid her there until she was like 10. And just she would sit up there, she'd have her iPad, and I just sat there and like did the same thing Atoya is doing. And
That is
worked.
what I feel like most of my clients do with their little ones. It's on the sink, there's a towel on their head, they're laying back, and you've got this full kitchen sink.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard, you know, there's, especially if there's a lot of hair, it's a lot of work. So I want to talk to you guys really quick about the rinse, going back to earlier with a lot of different opinions, and say, all of my practice that I've been doing for all these years, the research has been here in the Pacific Northwest, and climate plays a difference. So for anyone who's watching who might be in Texas, or you might be in Florida, or somewhere where it's dry, like Arizona, hydration is still important. This part does not change, but what can change and what you may get different opinions on is how much conditioner to leave in. So something that's really popular, a method is to rinse out all of the conditioner and then section off and rake back through a leave-in and then a cream on top of that. And you can keep building as much as you want. Let's say you're having pictures done and you're like, you know, I want my kid to look extra in this picture. You can layer on a leave-in and then a cream and then rake through a gel on top of it. But for myself and for the Pacific Northwest, so if you're here and you're stuck here, what always has worked for my clients with tight coils is what I call a drizzle rinse. And we teach it to all of our clients and it works really well. And that means when I go to rinse for hair, that's pretty much it. Everything that I just worked in there is going to stay in there. The benefit of that is that you don't always have to use a styler then. I just turned my conditioner into a leave-in conditioner by adding water the entire time. And having all of that water in there is going to help it so it doesn't frizz out, because we were talking about frizz earlier, and like now we form the curl and it's just going to lock into place like that. So I would encourage you to play around with how much, but I am really only concerned with making sure it's not on the scalp, because it's not like it's going to hurt. It's just, I don't really want it stuck there because we just cleansed it. So we don't want to clog anything up. But you can style just with conditioner water. I could leave her hair like this and let it air dry and it would be fine. That would be totally okay. You can rinse out and do the leave-in as well and then layer on. But today I'm going to leave it just like this because this is how I find it easier to move through the hair. One thing you'll notice when you leave a lot of water in it, which water is so key, is you can be like, oh my gosh, the dry time then is so, it seems like it takes forever. It does. It takes longer when you leave the water in it. However, you'll notice then the next day, like, wow, it's not quite as dry as it usually is because it has that water and conditioner in there and it's absorbing from the inside out. Does that make sense? Perfect. So I'm going to drizzle rinse her and then I'm going to bring her back to the chair. So if you guys want and sit around, I'm going to show you how to do a sectioning off. And what time are we at? Just wanted to check.
We are at 7:46.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. And if there's any questions online as you're going, I saw Brian's in there and Ari, like keep typing them in. Like these are so wonderful. And even though
Yes.
you're not with us right now, we would love to keep, keep asking those questions.
Yeah, we're going to set that around her. So go ahead and come up. And then let's head back to the bowl. You can hold that so that when you're dripping everywhere. So you can tell just how much hydration we got worked
Wow.
through it, right? Just by conditioner and water. So I have clients, like I said, who have tighter coils. They're doing hair for years. They come in and like, your hair is an amazing conditioning. Where in the past, they were using a lot of heavy butters and a lot of heavy oils and trying to really like, let me break this through and not using water as the foundation. And it really wasn't working. And in fact, sometimes that can leave a slip on it and it just can tend to dry it out. So I'm not 100% anti oils and butters. If you watched 4 years ago, you might hear me say different. But in this community, we're always evolving because this is our research behind the chair. And we're always learning new things like this works better, this doesn't work as well. So I'm not 100% anti heavy oils and butters, but I would love it if you learned to not rely on it and think, oh, here's this big, thick, heavy cream. I just like get this all over. It's going to really help me control it. It's like, no, that start with water and conditioner and keep it really simple. And the more simple it is, even though it takes some time, you're going to find you'll get better results. So what I'm going to do today is use a cream on her hair. And like I said, you can use whatever you would like. Fingers work really great for this. If you want to put cream on and then use the brush, can you grab the Felicia Leatherwood under there? Okay, this is a fancy brush. I don't know how much they are. I want to say they're under $20, but I'm not really sure. But it's a wonderful company, Black owned. This woman created this brush and we love it for clumping. It has like these separate little things. Some people take a Denman brush. Do you guys know what that is? I feel like I need to post pictures of all this on Instagram so you guys don't see it. But I want you to know there are options out there with cool tools like this that you can use. But I want you to know you do not have to. If you always kept everything as simple as using your fingers, time, patience, a lot of love, and nurturing, just conditioner and water, you'll be totally fine. So I am going to section off and encourage you guys to go back and watch how we did the other routine. That's a little bit different. This one takes a little bit more of your time, but if you're sitting and you're watching a movie and the little one's like in front of you, I don't know, do kids watch movies anymore? I feel like the time span back in my day, that's what we did, but that was like 90 years ago. So not really sure if that still happens. And sometimes you'll see even in the mid, do you see how here it's still a little bit dry, like even working through it at the bowl. So that's pretty common. I'm going to grab this water here because, yep, just even talking, I feel like not wet enough. Always having a spray bottle or a little bowl of water. And anytime, even like tomorrow, if you want to just give your little one a quick refresh, always have water on your hand before you put any product on. I don't care if it's a cream, a gel, a pomade, always make sure you have water and then take whatever you're using in small amounts and mix the water and your product together. And you can smooth it all on first. And don't be afraid, the tighter to just right at the scalp. You can take this right up to the root. And then I'm just going to section off. Do you see this smoothing motion I'm doing? I'm not sure if you guys can see over here. I'll come over here and show it as well, do a demo. With my thumb on top like this, smoothing all the way to the end. What that's doing, get in the habit of working like this, even if it's little, it's laying down the cuticle. So I'm laying down the cuticle and smoothing, and I'm going to go through, rake through, smooth, rake through, smooth. You can come in this direction too. And smooth all the way to the ends, and then let that be your section. And work through the entire head using that same motion. So this would work really good for like your little one that you're seeing has really tight. I mean, the tighter and more small it is, the more you're really just right at that root, doing a little bit of a Reiki motion here. And you can get fancy and do a little finger coil if you want to, but you definitely do not have to.
What age do you start doing this? Like my little one is 7 months old and I've been told not to put any product in her hair until she's older.
I would just do conditioner, water, and you could do like a fragrance free, a very gentle, anything that you would normally use for a little one. I don't even know what people use for little ones anymore, but that way you're not putting any kind of fragrance or any kind of chemical toxin, whatever you would normally use for babies, but conditioner and water is totally fine. You can skip the cream part then and just use the conditioner water styling.
And when do you, I mean, like when she turns a year, when
Oh,
she's
when?
2, like
That's
when
gonna
do
be
I-
up to you of when, because there's not like a real reason that you can't when they're little. My kids had products in when they were really little. Unless you're worried about like toxic overload, which those things are important because we use so many products. So if it's something like that, then I would say use your discussion as a parent, like when you feel comfortable. And when there's enough hair to do that, right? Like that would make sense, like if you're gonna spend the time. And like I was saying earlier, if you want to be extra, you can always do a leave-in, rinse out your conditioner, do a leave-in, and then go through with a little bit of a cream and section through like this. And then there's gels, there's pomades, and you can do a rake through just like this. The thing about using a gel is when they're little, just remember sometimes it can stay a little bit crunchy. And honestly, when kids are really little, I love me some good braids. Just some little braids or little pigtails. Like we always say, my stepdaughter was just Afro puffs all day long. You know what I mean? Because she had so much hair, like a lot. But conditioner and water basically is a leave-in, and that's going to be your best friend. Do you guys have any other questions? Does anyone want to come and work through a little section and get a feel for this? So it's always coat through and then smooth that cuticle down.
Why would you use a styling cream versus a gel?
So that's a great question. A styling cream really is more soft and actually like an extra kind of hydrator. Like it's got more moisture to it. So maybe for your little one, if it's really tight, I would use a cream if it needs a little bit more hydration, a little bit more moisture in there. But a gel's just got the hold. Like in here, we always, we'll teach with a gel just to give you that like mega hold. But for the little ones, I'm thinking with Anna, like we do not, she's 5. She's got beautiful coils, my granddaughter. We don't use gel on her hair. It's always about creams. So when they're little, I tend to lean more towards creams. It's easier to not knot up and get all crunchy. And then, you're rinsing everything out. You're working through all this product. Like you just want to make life more simple. And another thing that I forgot to mention that might be helpful. Do you see the definition, how good this is really looking? If you do your wash set first, let this dry, it'll be really clear to go out to the ends and see right where those ends are so you can set them right off versus if you do it before. And a lot of times in curly salons, if there's tight coils, they'll do a wash set first. So then every coil is in its place and then you can just literally go and dust those ends right off. So that might make it easier for you than having to fight through like smooth out the tangles. Literally, when this is sitting in its place, I don't really need to smooth that much. I can just go out to the end and take that little bit off.
So then it would be okay to do while it's wet? Or would you?
No,
still
you
wanna
would
wait
want
till
it
it's
to be dry still.
Okay.
Yeah, you would definitely want it to be dry. Thank you for clarifying that. You want it to be fully dry. What other kind of questions do you guys have? Or anyone online?
So we have a boar brush for our little guy. Is that like, I don't
Yeah.
know when to use that.
The board brush thing, I probably wouldn't. I
Okay.
don't feel like it's just not gonna move through it. It's just not, it's like, it's really a cool like styling tool.
To throw it out. It looks
Yeah,
really cute,
but
but-
it's just not gonna move
Okay.
through the tangles, I feel like, and you're not gonna get really the definition.
Mhm.
The great thing about curls that you'll learn when you're dealing with tighter coils and just curls in general is like bringing them out. Like you were saying earlier with, well, it seems just there's a lot of frizz. It's like a challenge too. It's like very rewarding to go through and like watch this curl form. It's like, it's rewarding. I love that feeling. And it teaches your little one too to really have self-love and self-respect, like self-care for their hair, right? They're learning from a little time, like, wow, look at what my hair does, because not everyone's going to do this. And yeah, go ahead.
This is a perfect question. It's actually
Okay, I love it.
Can you give some pointers and review a good routine for non-wash days? Because you said to wash a couple
Yes.
times a week, you've done it once a week. So then why do you
Yes.
do other 6 days a week?
That is a great question. So someone was asking about what to do on non-wash days. In the curly world, we call that refresh. And we also say sometimes refresh can be a myth. This is the first thing I want to tell you about the non-wash days is it's never going to look like the first day. So let go of that expectation right away. When you're dealing with curls, you really need to take away the mindset of, okay, I have straight hair and this is everything I know and it's consistent and it's reliable and it's dependable and it does the same thing every day when I do my thing. And in the curly world, it's like, it's going to evolve. Day one, it's going to look like this and maybe it's going to have less frizz and more curl retention because you did a wash. Day two, it's going to be a little bit more taily. It's going to look a little bit drier. All of those things are normal. So first shift mindset to day two isn't going to look like day one. Day three isn't going to look like day two. But to stretch it out, you're going to go back right to the basics that we always return to, which is hydration, which is always water and conditioner. So either a spray bottle with a little bit of conditioner to work through. And you don't always on day two have to do a complete breakthrough. Sometimes it's just a smoothing of a section. You're just going to smooth everything together like that. And it'll break apart into its own little thing. The wetter you get it, the better. And I know that seems like, oh my gosh, it looks like I'm wetting it every day. But the wetter you get it, the better. That's just the reality with curls. And if you work and spend more time on your day one hair, it's going to be easier. So if you take that one wash day and really take the time to nurture it, and not like you're halfway through and it's like, oh my gosh, it's too much. I'm just gonna, which is what most adults do. And then they come back and like, forget it. I don't even care about the rest. But if you spend a little bit more time, are you a middle parter? I love a middle part. Sucker for it. If you spend a little bit more time on day one, it'll be easier on day two, but always go back, conditioner, water. You can use gel, but a tiny amount. We're talking like not even a teaspoon, a quarter teaspoon of gel to like tons of water in your hand, a mousse, a pomade, a cream, anything you can use, but just make sure you add water to it and smooth that on.
Another one.
Perfect.
So this is what I love too, is like, these are such good questions because I have a variety. Okay, you're gonna have to repeat this again, but do you have any bonnet recommendations or is it required? My 2-year-old won't keep one on, so her hair is always very frizzy in the back after a second day. It also frizzes in the car seat.
Yes.
And that car seat's a really important one for us foster parents, right?
Yes.
They have visitations, they're going back and forth, and so that's a really specific. This one was just perfect for our kids.
Yes, that's a great question. So in case some of you didn't hear that, it was for recommendations of either sleeping or in the car seat to help with frizz, and especially this back area that we already know needs a lot of extra love when they're sitting in their car seats. If they will not keep on a silk bonnet, silk pillowcases are like my fave. And I know they may roll off of it, and that's a possibility. Some people even take silk pillowcases and kind of tuck it into the car seats, like the back. You know how it has the little thing there? Lots of clever ways that I've seen people put it in there. So when their head's leaning back, you've got one there. And that is like your best bet to keep it on. Because yeah, the silk bonnets just fly right off and then you're just left with a mess. So I prefer like a silk pillowcase.
I
how do you do?
I used to have, there was a silk bonnet, but it was never tight enough. but they have new ones. They've got super cute patterns, but it's a bonnet and it has not a string, but like a tie, like sewed to it. So you put the bonnet on and then you tie it so it's secure on your head.
Even like the hiking jacket mechanism
Yes.
where it like releases.
Yes,
and stays
and
tight.
there
They
are
have those
tons.
There's
like
a lot. Amazon has a bunch of them,
Tons.
and
Yes.
that's the one that I use, and it's like big. So and I like literally sleep, like put my afro in. My afro will keep it up, and then in the morning I just spray a ton of water in it, and then like rake it through. But
Yeah.
those work a lot, and those should stay on your head because silk used to always just slip off no matter how big my hair was.
Yes.
Thinking of the car seats, I'm wondering about, like I'm a special education teacher.
Yes.
The body socks, like they're lycra material.
Yeah.
But they're stretchy, so you could
Yeah.
actually get it on there.
Yeah. I'm trying to think.
One thing that
What that would
bugs
do
me
with the
is-
texture. Yeah. Yeah. Putting something in there, I think that's more kind of like a silky or even a satin kind of texture would help.
The question is, to follow that up, is a bonnet / silk pillowcases helpful for 3A or 3B curls?
This is gonna be super controversial, so I hope you guys are ready for this. Don't tell anyone I said this. I never sleep with one myself, and I know I'm 2A, 2B, and I don't really use numbering systems in the curl whip, but I understand if you're 3A, 3B, like I feel like it's not as helpful and beneficial as it is for tighter coils. That really, a lot of things that we brought into the curly world really came from the Black community, and one of the things was wrapping the hair at night, using silk pillowcases and silk scarves. I love it for coils. I think it's super important. But if you are looking, I'll take this back and say if it's 3A, 3B, but a lot of texture in there, yes. But if 3A, 3B, and it's kind of more of a silky texture like mine or like yours is pretty silky, it's not really as important. That's a great question. I know, we're like, no battery.
Okay, any other questions as we start?
Yeah.
After 8.
Yeah.
So any other
We're
questions
good.
before we wrap up? Oh, I got another one. Oh, this totally read my mind.
Yeah.
Okay, I might think it with some of these people today. Okay, I don't know curl grades. What grade would you consider Tuesday's hair?
Okay, so this is a great question, and I really would love to speak to it. So in the curl community, specifically in the Black curl community, we don't really use numbering systems or grading systems or 2As or 3Bs or 4Cs. Like we're really trying to move the narrative away from that just so that we live more in acceptance of all different patterns and not really segregating them into different. So that's not to put anyone down. It's a lovely question. Like, how would you know? It's just to educate you that we're not really doing grading or curl patterns or curl types like the A's, the B's, the C's, anything like that. We're kind of moving in a direction away from that. So I hope that answers your question. And that is an excellent question.
Right?
Yeah.
So is there any other questions here before we stop the video? Before we finish up with Zoom? All
You've been
right,
so great. Thank you so much.
can you show them?
Oh, where we've got done. Yeah. Let's you still have
Tuesday's
that
been
here.
so patient. Oh my God.
I know
The
she
perfect
really
model.
is. Like, can we just give her a hand?
Yeah.
Like,
Woo!
That's a big shout out. Like, look at how pretty. So pretty. And I feel like when it dries, it'll just even get better. This is a lot more detailed, which I love. Do you detail yours?
What do you mean?
Like, do you do more detail when you're doing it, or do you just wear it kind of wild?
More detail, I think.
Yeah. I feel like when your little ones get about all the way till college, they're probably going to go for the detailed look. And then at college, they're gonna come home and just be like all over, let me get it as big as possible. That's what's coming.
I have one more question.
Yes.
When you were talking about cutting in the beginning,
Yeah.
Are we going for, you said like no shaving, are we worried about keeping it the same length or just getting off?
We're worried about just dusting the
Okay,
ends.
just
Yeah,
dusting the
when you
ends.
start getting into length changes, that's when you seek the professionals. But just cleaning up those ends, perfect to do yourself with permission.
We gotcha.
Yeah, with permission.
Okay, we're gonna finish up with Tuesday's hair. Thank you for those of you zooming in. We're gonna end the recording here, but we're just so thankful for Toya yet again, educating,
Yeah, it's
helping
so
us.
fun. I love
As
you
we're
guys.
growing together, right? Which is so
Yeah.
fun, is that
We have.
4 years ago,
Yeah.
we've gone through a lot. We did COVID together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the thing. So to actually have people again in studio, like, it's just really great. Since you're here today, we'll be taking the product, and taking it home. And then Atoya is on Instagram and on Facebook. How do we follow you?
I never do Facebook, to be honest. I don't even know how to work it, but Instagram is fun because I put a lot of tips on there too. So yeah, lots of good information there that you can use to try out different things.
And what's your
Because this
handle?
world is fun.
Yeah, what is?
Atoya Bass. So just Atoya, no L, not like Latoya. Even though, people from high school still call me that. I'm like, are you serious? It's Atoya. And Bass, Bass, like the fish. But there's lots of free information there where you can go and get tips and tricks, because you guys, this is a really fun world to dive into. It's super unique, and I hope you really learn to enjoy the process with your little ones. It's really important.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
And
thank
for
you.
Everybody else, everyone who's been online, thank you so much for hanging out with us. And then also, foster care is fluid, right? Like, somebody else might get a placement tomorrow and say, oh my goodness, I'm not really sure what to do here. Recommend our YouTube channel, because that will have all the
Yes.
information on for your friends. We do other types of classes as well, but we just want to make sure that they're sticking with our children. And this is just one of the many ways of getting tools in our toolbox. So thank you so much. for joining us.
Yes, thank you guys.
People find the YouTube channel. If I search for
Oh, it's with Love Oregon. Yeah, it's with Love Oregon, and you can subscribe. So anytime something comes up, you'll get it first.
Yes, and I would encourage you to definitely watch those other videos, because